Hey guys, I just want to do an overview of a phone that I've used a lot in the past 2 years, one of my favorite phones ever, and sadly I'm letting go of this phone very soon. I just sold it on eBay, and I'll let you guys know about the features of this phone, why I like it so much, why I also get rid of it as well. So this is a Sony Xperia XZ1 Compact. It came out in late 2017. I've used it a lot in the past 2 years. Pretty much this has been my daily driver for 2 of the last 2 years, and I don't usually use a phone for that long. I think only my Google Pixel 2 I've used longer. What I really love about this phone is the small size and how powerful and how feature rich it is, right? So I actually do love Sony phones a lot. I like Sony devices in general. If you see my videos, I do a lot of reviews on Sony devices. I think Sony makes a lot of cool things. Actually, my first Android phone was a Sony Xperia Z3 Compact. And that one I used for about 3 years in San Francisco, and when I was living in Korea, that was my main phone. It was just really ahead of its time. You know, it's really nice, small, and compact, and I like small size phones generally, and I like that expandable storage, wireless charging at the time. It was magnetic wireless charging, IP68 water resistant, way before a lot of the other phones were. It had really good battery life, like full 2 or 3 day battery life on that thing. And this phone was similar. This was probably the closest thing in terms of the feature set to the Z3 Compact. This was an upgrade, but kept a lot of the great features. So after the Z3 Compact, the Z5 came out, Z5 Compact. I didn't upgrade to that one because it was very similar. And then the X Compact came out after that, which was a downgrade in many ways. It didn't have the IP68 water resistance. But I got this one because I like the IP68 water resistant, and I like the small size. I like the fact that this has most of the same features, except for the wireless charging, but it has most of the same features, but just, upgraded processor and everything. So just going over those specs of this phone. I know I've done an unboxing and kind of review of this phone already, but I just want to do it again because I know a lot of people kind of missed out on that video. That was about a lot of different Sony devices, and that kind of just got buried in there. So I kind of want to talk about this phone by itself. So yeah, this phone is a flagship phone for the time, because it was running a flagship processor, the Snapdragon 835, which was a flagship processor in 2017. That was the same processor that the Samsung S8 had and the Google Pixel 2 had. So it had a top-notch processor at the time, which is very rare for a phone that's of this size. So this is a compact phone, and it contained the same internals as the XZ1 flagship phone, which is basically the bigger version, but it contained the exact same specs. And this was the last phone until Sony just recently released their Xperia 1, 2. Yeah, it's a bad name, but until they released that this year, this was the very last series. The XZ1 was the last series to keep the headphone jack, right? That's why I didn't upgrade to the XZ2 Compact, because it lost the headphone jack. That was a big deal to me. I wanted to have a phone with a headphone jack to play music as well, right? I like the 4.6-inch display, right? This is a very small display, and it's really good for people who like small phones, right? Resolution 720 by 1280. It's a small resolution, but that's why it has such good battery life. It has about 2 or 3 day battery life when it was new, of course. Upgradable all the way to Android 9, which is fine for this phone because it was from 2017, right? And actually got better support from Sony than Samsung gives its phones, right? So Sony actually provides some decent support for its phones, I would say 2-3 years-ish. So that's not bad. Removable storage. This is pretty cool because you can just use your fingernail to take out the SIM card and the micro SD card. A lot of phones you need to have a SIM ejector tool, but this you can just use your fingernail, which is cool. A fingerprint sensor right on the side here. This is unique to Sony. I don't think any other phone maker does this. They usually put it on the back, but props to Sony for having this on the side. It's actually pretty good spot. And then, yeah, 4 gigs of RAM, 32 gigs of internal storage. The camera isn't that great. It's, like Sony cameras, for some reason, they just haven't been great. Probably until the last release that they have this year, Xperia 1, 2, and they took some features from their alpha cameras, which they should have done a long time ago, but they just started doing it because Sony makes really great camera hardware. They just haven't been able to make the software for it. But yeah, it's an 8 megapixel f2.4. 19 megapixel f2.0. The front camera is the 8 megapixel f2.24. And So the selfie camera is okay, and the back camera is just okay. You know, I've used this before. Sony cameras on their phones have never really been that great, and I think it's just software because obviously their hardware is good enough for use by other phone manufacturers, right? NFC, which Sony always puts in their devices, which I like. It's very convenient. Yeah, I just like the small portability of it. I think I've already done the video on this, but I think this was the best small phone out there for a very long time. Better than the iPhone SE. I did a comparison video of that, especially for audio. Like audio wise, this is still one of the best phones. There's a few reasons for that. One is this has a pretty good DAC inside of it, and headphone amp, and headphone jack, of course, which by 2017, like a lot of phones were starting to remove, but Sony kept it in. So they have headphone jack, of course, USB-C. The speakers are really good. They're stereo speakers, but they're front facing, which means they fire up directly at you. So most phones these days, even these days, right, flagship phones, they have speakers down here that's down firing. Down firing speakers don't sound as good as the stereo front facing speakers. Now I know why manufacturers do this now, because they don't have bezels on their phone now, right? This phone has bezels because it's an old school phone. So they have bezels, but because they have bezels, that means that they have space to put in stereo speakers on the front side, which means that they actually sound better, right, than the downfiring ones. So I really wish that manufacturers these days would do that and put it, I don't care about the notch or whatever, just put like a small bezel and then put like stereo speakers in it. Like that's fine for me. I don't know why people are so obsessed with bezelless. And one other unique feature about the Sony Xperia phones is that they always have a camera shutter button here. So a lot of other phone makers, they don't put this camera shutter button. Sony has kept this feature in all the way to their present phones. So this is a pretty nice feature to have because you want to have a quick way to access the camera. Then you just, you know, do this and accesses the camera, right? It's pretty good. And I'll show you the UI of this phone, of course. So you just use the fingerprint sensor, and then this is the Sony theme here, this Mount Fuji theme. I really like that. This is a Sony specific theme. So if you buy an Xperia phone, you get that Mount Fuji look. So if you guys want to see that again, see, it's not just a wallpaper. It's like this wallpaper on the lock screen, and then you just, yeah, it just goes into it on the home screen, which is pretty nice. It's very smooth. And you can tell the launcher icon down there is pretty unique as well. It looks kind of like a butterfly. That's part of the theme as well. But yeah, I love this phone. IP68 water resistant, of course. Great battery life. I love the speakers. I love the fact that it plays audio very, very well. It's very good for as an audio phone. It has the Walkman app and everything. Of course, it has PS4 remote play as well, for those of you who have the PlayStation. So a lot of cool, good things about this phone. You might be wondering, why am I getting rid of it? So the main reason why I use this phone was mainly for two purposes, okay? One was I really like the small size and the fact that it was compact, very powerful compact phone. And secondly, I liked the fact that it was really good for use as a music player. So, you know, the stereo speakers, the headphone jack, right, the removable storage, that's all really good for playing music. So I use this mainly for two reasons, as a music phone and as a small compact device. And now I find that I've replaced the music part of it with, I have the Astell & Kern A-Norma SR15 dedicated audio player, which, you know, that has a much more powerful DAC and headphone amp, and it's a dedicated music player, so it's going to play music much better than this, and it's also pretty tiny as well. So for the music side of things, I have that. For the small compact form factor, I just got the Motorola Razr Fold, which folds up, right? A folding phone that folds up into, like, actually I have it here, so you can do the comparison. Yeah, Motorola Razr Fold, which is, you know, still smaller than this when it's folded up. So I don't really need to have this compact size anymore when I have something like that. Now I know that the Razr Fold still lacks a lot of the features of this phone, like the removable storage, headphone jack. It doesn't have that IP68 water resistance. Battery life is not as good, but I think that's fine because I have a dedicated music player, which was the main reason why I used the micro SD card storage, and the headphone jack was for music anyways. So yeah, and of course I never really used the camera on this because it wasn't that good, and I have my iPhone 11 Pro, which is much better. So for all those reasons, it's pretty much replaced this phone. And that's not to say this phone, it wasn't good. It was a really good phone. That's why I'm doing this kind of overview again 3 years later. on this device, this kind of retrospective, because I really love this phone. So I no longer really need this phone anymore. The small compact size was really good, but now I have a folding phone that I paid a lot more money for, and dedicated audio player. But of course, you know, that's for most people who are looking for a very good budget device that can do those things. This phone is very good. Like I said, I paid about almost $2,000 total. If you combine my Aston and Kern music player with the Motorola Razr Fold, how much I paid for those devices, I think I paid about $2,000 almost for those two devices put together. With this phone, you can buy right now on eBay for about $200. And like if you're on a budget and you're looking for a small, compact, powerful phone that can play audio really well, then this is probably the device. I mean, for $200 you get this device, which can, I think it's a really good music phone still to this day. So yeah, I mean, I'm replacing it because I bought much more expensive devices, but that's not to say that this phone wasn't a good value. So anyways, guys, that's it. That's a Sony Xperia XZ1 Compact. I'll look at this because it is one of my favorite phones. I've used it a lot in the past 3 years, and I just wanted to shed some light on it. It's going to my Hall of Fame phones for sure. I think that would include the iPhone 4S, which I've had back then, as well as the Z3 Compact, which I liked, and the Google Pixel 2, which I still have. So this phone is going to the Hall of Fame collection. I'm just making this video for my records, right? But I think a lot of these phones are going to be probably among the best phones I ever had. And this is definitely one of my favorite phones that I've ever had. That's it, guys. Thanks for watching. Sony Xperia XZ1 Compact. Again, if you want a small, compact, powerful device that's good for playing music, and you don't care about like the camera or anything like that, if you just want a good phone for playing music, then I think this is a really good one.